Captain Zara Quint of the Earth Diplomatic Corps stood before the mirror in her quarters aboard the Galactic Confederation Station Harmony's Nexus, frowning at her reflection. Her skin, normally a warm bronze, now sported an angry shade of red across her nose and cheeks. "Stupid quantum-shifted sun," she muttered, gingerly poking at her sunburn. Who knew alien beaches could be so treacherous? A chime at her door interrupted her self-admonishment. "Come in," she called, hastily pulling on her uniform jacket and wincing as the fabric brushed her tender skin. Her first officer, a lanky xenobiologist named Dr. Elias Frost, stepped into the room. His eyes widened at the sight of her face. "Captain, your epidermis. Are you all right?" Zara waved off his concern. "Just a souvenir from shore leave on Azuria Prime. Their binary star system packs quite a punch." Elias frowned, his brow furrowing with worry. "Perhaps you should visit the medbay before the council meeting. The Galactic representatives might misinterpret your condition." "No time," Zara said, checking her chronometer. "We're due in chambers in 10 minutes. It's just a little sunburn, Elias. What's the worst that could happen?" As it turned out, the answer was quite a lot. The Galactic Council chambers were a marvel of xeno-architecture, designed to accommodate species from across the known universe. Hovering platforms for anti-gravity races floated next to water-filled tanks for aquatic delegates. The air was a carefully calibrated mix of gases, and translator nodes hummed softly, ready to facilitate communication. Zara and Elias made their way to the human delegation's spot, nodding greetings to various alien representatives. As they took their seats, Zara noticed a ripple of murmurs and concerned glances in her direction. "Told you the medbay was a good idea," Elias whispered. Before Zara could respond, a resonant tone signaled the start of the session. High Counselor Zixix, a being of pure energy contained within an ornate crystalline shell, floated to the center of the chamber. "Esteemed colleagues," Zixix's voice reverberated through the room, "we gather today to discuss the ongoing integration of Earth into the Galactic Confederation. Are there any matters of immediate concern before we proceed to the agenda?" To Zara's surprise, dozens of appendages, tentacles, and assorted alien limbs shot into the air. "The chair recognizes Delegate Gloop of the Viscosi Collective," Zixix announced. A gelatinous blob quivered as it spoke, its translator converting burbles into words. "High Counselor, I must express grave concern over the condition of the human representative. It appears Captain Quint has suffered severe radiation burns. Are we to understand that Earth's sun has intensified its output? Should we be preparing evacuation protocols?" Zara blinked in confusion. Then realization dawned. She stood, ignoring the twinge of pain from her sunburn. "Esteemed delegates, I assure you there's no cause for alarm. This is merely..." But her words were drowned out by a cacophony of concerned alien voices. "Look at the discoloration. Surely their protective layers have been compromised. Could this be a sign of impending solar instability in their system? What if it's contagious? Quarantine protocols must be enacted immediately." Zix's crystalline form pulsed with calming blue light. "Order, please. Let us allow Captain Quint to explain." All eyes and various other sensory organs turned to Zara. She cleared her throat, feeling the weight of interstellar diplomacy on her sunburned shoulders. "Thank you, High Counselor. Delegates of the Galactic Confederation, I appreciate your concern, but I assure you this is nothing more than a mild sunburn. It's a common occurrence for humans when we've had a bit too much sun exposure." The chamber fell silent for a moment, then erupted into even more chaotic discussion. "You mean this happens regularly?" gasped a photosynthean delegate, their leaf-like appendages rustling with shock. "Intentional radiation exposure? Is this some form of ritual scarification?" asked a silicon-based being, its rocky surface grating as it shifted in confusion. Zara shot a pleading look at Elias, who stood up beside her. "If I may," he began, his tone slipping into lecture mode. "Human skin has a fascinating ability to produce melanin in response to ultraviolet radiation. This darkening of the skin, which we call tanning, is a natural defense mechanism. However, if we receive too much UV exposure too quickly, it results in the reddening and mild damage to the outer skin layer that we call a sunburn." Rather than calming the assembly, this explanation seemed to heighten the alarm. "You allow your protective layers to be damaged. On purpose?" The Viscosi delegate's gelatinous form rippled with what might have been nausea. "Not exactly," Zara tried to explain. "Sometimes it's accidental, like in my case. I underestimated the strength of Azuria Prime's twin suns. But yes, some humans do intentionally expose themselves to UV radiation to darken their skin. It's considered aesthetically pleasing by some cultures on Earth. The council chamber exploded into a frenzy of discussion, with delegates frantically tapping on data pads and conferring with their assistants. Zara could only watch in growing disbelief as her minor Sunburn spiraled into a full-blown galactic incident. Zix's crystalline form pulsed with a range of colors as they attempted to process this information. Captain Quint, Dr. Frost, are you saying that humans regularly and willingly expose themselves to dangerous levels of stellar radiation? For cosmetic purposes, Zara and Elias exchanged glances. How had a routine council meeting turned into a xenobiological inquisition? Well, when you put it that way, Zara began, but she was interrupted by a high-pitched keening from the Melodian representative. Oh, the horror, the avian like being trilled. To think we've been in diplomatic relations with a species that casually irradiates itself. What other dangers might they be hiding? The Robotech Collective's representative, a sleek assemblage of nano-machines, spoke up. Query: does this radiation exposure result in mutation? Hypothesis: humans are engaging in controlled evolution through solar manipulation. What? No, Zara protested, but her words were lost in the growing tumult. A squad of quarantine enforcers, clad in iridescent hazmat suits, began to cordon off the human delegation's area. Elias found himself backed into a corner by a group of enthusiastic xenobiologists, all clamoring to scan his radiation-resistant epidermis. Zara watched in dismay as her Sunburn, her stupid, vacation souvenir Sunburn, threatened to unravel years of careful diplomacy. She took a deep breath, winced as her sunburned skin protested, and decided desperate times called for desperate measures. Enough, she bellowed, her voice cutting through the chaos like a plasma cutter through butter. The chamber fell silent, even the Melodians keening trailing off into a surprised chirp. Esteemed delegates of the Galactic Confederation, Zara began, drawing herself up to her full height, which, admittedly, was rather unimpressive next to the towering arboreal representatives. I believe we've gotten off track here. Yes, humans can get sunburns. Yes, some of us deliberately tan our skin. But I assure you, we are not engaging in systemic self-irradiation or controlled mutation. She paused, looking around the chamber. Some delegates still looked skeptical, others confused, and a few seemed begrudgingly impressed by her outburst. The truth is, she continued, Earth is what you'd classify as a Class 12 death world. Our relationship with our environment, including our sun, is complex. We've evolved to withstand conditions that might seem harsh or even deadly to other species, but that doesn't make us a threat to the Confederation. If anything, it makes us uniquely qualified to help. Zix's crystalline form shimmered with interest. Elaborate, Captain Quint. How might Earth's unique conditions be of benefit to the Galactic Confederation? Zara allowed herself a small smile. Finally, a chance to turn this disaster around. Well, High Counselor, consider the unexplored regions of our galaxy. The systems deemed too dangerous for standard survey teams, humans with our adaptability and, let's face it, our occasional lack of self-preservation instincts. It could be invaluable in pushing the boundaries of galactic exploration. A murmur of intrigue rippled through the chamber. The Robotech Collective's avatar whirred thoughtfully. Proposal: creation of a human hazardous environment exploration division. Potential benefits significant. Precisely, Zara nodded, warming to her theme. We could go where no one else can, or where no one else would dare. Imagine the scientific discoveries, the resource opportunities. The Viscosi delegate burbled skeptically. But the risks, the radiation alone. With all due respect, Elias chimed in, having finally extricated himself from the overeager xenobiologists. What you see as an alarming level of radiation exposure is, for us, roughly equivalent to a day at the beach. He added with a pointed look at Zara, one where someone forgot to reapply their sunscreen. Zara shot him a mock glare but pressed on. The point is, esteemed delegates, what you're seeing as a weakness or a bizarre ritual is actually one of humanity's strengths. We're tough, we're adaptable, and we're eager to put those qualities to use for the benefit of the entire Confederation. The chamber buzzed with excited discussion. Zix's crystal shell pulsed with a kaleidoscope of colors as they processed the implications. This is most unexpected, Captain Quint. When this session began, I did not anticipate it would lead to a proposal for a new division of galactic exploration. Neither did I, Zara admitted with a rueful chuckle. But sometimes, the best discoveries come from unexpected places, even from a simple sunburn. Over the next few hours, the Galactic Council debated the merits of Zara's impromptu proposal. Questions flew fast and furious. But what about the long-term effects of such constant exposure to hazardous environments, asked the Medicines Sans Frontières Galactic's representative. Zara nodded to Elias, who stepped forward. Excellent question. While it's true that repeated exposure to extreme conditions can have cumulative effects, humans have developed numerous medical and technological solutions to mitigate these risks, from advanced radiation treatments to nanite-enhanced cellular repair. We've turned our own biological vulnerabilities into catalysts for medical innovation. The Technarch Imperium's emissary, a being more machine than organic, whirred with interest. Fascinating. Your species' approach to adversity seems to be less about avoidance and more about adaptation and problem-solving. Most efficient. Exactly, Zara agreed. Where some might see danger, we see challenge and opportunity for growth both personally and as a species. As the discussion continued, Zara could see the initial shock and horror on many delegates' faces slowly morphing into cautious interest and, in some cases, outright excitement. The Zephyrian ambassador, a being of living gas contained within an ornate exosuit, wafted forward. I must admit, the idea of willingly exposing oneself to stellar radiation for aesthetic purposes still seems unsettling, but I cannot deny the potential benefits of your proposed Human Hazardous Environment Exploration Division. The gas giants in the Horsehead Nebula have long been of interest to my people, but the conditions there are far too volatile for our probes. Zara grinned, ignoring the twinge from her sunburned cheeks. Exactly the kind of mission we'd be perfect for, Ambassador. Imagine the advances in atmospheric science, the potential for resource discovery. As she spoke, Zara could almost see the gears turning in the minds or equivalent cognitive organs of the assembled delegates. The initial panic over her sunburn had transformed into a galaxy brain moment of realization. Humans, with all their weird and sometimes alarming traits, might just be the missing piece in the Confederation's exploratory ambitions. By Councillor Zixix's crystalline form pulsed with a soft, contemplative light. Captain Quint, Dr. Frost, I believe you've given us much to consider. This council will need time to fully debate the implications of your proposal. But I must say, you've turned what could have been a diplomatic disaster into a most intriguing opportunity. Zara bowed slightly, wincing as her uniform jacket brushed against her tender shoulders. Thank you, High Counselor. And may I say, this is a perfect example of why human participation in the Confederation is so valuable. We have a saying on Earth: necessity is the mother of invention. Sometimes it takes a little adversity, or in this case, there's a badly timed sunburn to spark new ideas. As the council session adjourned, delegates clustered in animated discussion groups. The atmosphere had shifted dramatically from the panic of a few hours ago to a buzz of excitement and possibility. Elias leaned in close to Zara as they made their way out of the chamber. I've got to hand it to you, Captain. Only you could turn a case of vacation sunburn into a proposal for a new branch of galactic exploration. Zara chuckled, then winced. Thanks, I think. Though right now I'd trade all this excitement for a nice, cool aloe vera compress. Careful, Elias teased. Mention aloe vera, and you'll have half the xenobotanists on the station begging for samples of Earth's miraculous healing plants. As if on cue, they were approached by a group of eager alien scientists, all clamoring to learn more about human physiology and the proposed exploration division. Captain Quint, is it true humans can withstand temperatures that would vaporize most carbon-based lifeforms? Dr. Frost, could you explain more about this melanin production process? Does it have applications beyond solar radiation protection? Is it accurate that some humans willingly ingest neurotoxins for recreational purposes? How does this relate to your radiation resistance? Zara held up her hands, trying not to laugh at the barrage of questions. Easy, everyone. There'll be plenty of time for a full xenobiological briefing later. For now, how about we all head to the station's atrium for some refreshments? I don't know about you, but diplomatic crises always leave me parched. As they made their way through Harmony's nexus, Zara couldn't help but marvel at the turn of events. She'd woken up this morning worried about hiding her embarrassing vacation souvenir, and now she was at the center of what might be the biggest shakeup in Confederation exploration policy in centuries. In the atrium, a sprawling zero-gravity garden that served as the station's social hub, Zara and Elias found themselves holding court at the center of a diverse group of alien diplomats and scientists. The initial fear and shock had given way to fascination and a barrage of questions about human biology, culture, and potential applications for galactic exploration. "So, let me get this straight," burbled the Viscosi delegate, its gelatinous form rippling with a mix of horror and admiration. "Not only do you expose yourselves to radiation for aesthetic purposes, but you also have entire industries dedicated to simulating near-death experiences. These extreme sports of yours sound absolutely terrifying." Zara grinned, sipping a surprisingly palatable alien beverage that tasted like a cross between mango juice and liquid starlight. Terrifying to some, exhilarating to others. It's all about perspective. Take bungee jumping, for instance. Yes, it involves hurling yourself off a high place with only an elastic cord to save you. But it's also about pushing your limits, feeling alive, and gaining a new appreciation for the world around you. A sylphid representative, their diaphanous form shimmering with curiosity, floated closer. This concept of pushing limits is fascinating. In our culture, we seek harmony with our environment, not confrontation. Yet you speak of these challenges as if they are beneficial. Elias nodded enthusiastically. Absolutely. Human history is full of examples where facing adversity head-on led to incredible advancements. Take our space program, for instance. The harsh, unforgiving environment of space forced us to innovate in ways we never would have on Earth alone. Indeed, Zara added. And it's not just about physical challenges. Mental and emotional resilience are equally important. In fact, many of our extreme activities are as much about psychological fortitude as they are about physical endurance. The Technarch emissary's optical sensors whirred as they processed this information. Query: does this propensity for risk-taking not lead to higher mortality rates among your species? Zara and Elias exchanged glances. It was a fair question, and one that cut to the heart of the misconceptions about humanity. It's a common assumption. Zara began carefully, but the reality is more nuanced. Yes, some humans engage in what might be seen as unnecessarily risky behavior, but as a species, we've developed extensive safety protocols, protective equipment, and training regimens to mitigate those risks. Our desire for excitement is balanced by an equally strong drive for innovation in safety and protection. Elias chimed in, slipping into lecture mode. Moreover, this apparent recklessness has evolutionary roots. Earth's diverse and often hostile environments necessitated adaptability and a willingness to take calculated risks. Those traits, which helped our ancestors survive, now drive us to explore, innovate, and push boundaries. The Zephyrian ambassador wafted thoughtfully. Fascinating. So your proposal for this human hazardous environment exploration division is not just about physical capability, but also this unique psychological approach to challenge. Exactly, Zara beamed, then winced as her sunburn reminded her of its presence. Ouch. Speaking of challenges, remind me to pack industrial-strength sunscreen for our next shore leave, Elias. The gathered aliens watched this exchange with a mix of concern and curiosity. The Medicines Sans Frontières Galactic's representative floated forward, their bioluminescent tendrils pulsing with professional interest. "Captain Quint, if you'd allow it, I'd be fascinated to examine your epidermal damage. Our knowledge of human physiology is still quite limited, and this could be an excellent learning opportunity." Zara hesitated for a moment, then shrugged. "Why not? In for a penny, in for a pound, that's another human saying. Might as well use this sunburn for the advancement of interspecies medical knowledge." As the medical representative began a gentle examination of Zara's sunburn, using instruments that looked more like abstract sculptures than medical devices, the impromptu gathering in the atrium continued to buzz with questions and discussions. The sylphid representative, still struggling with the concept of voluntary risk-taking, posed another question. These extreme sports and exploration activities, are they common among all humans, or only a select few? Elias fielded this one. It varies greatly. Some humans are natural thrill-seekers, always looking for the next big adventure. Others prefer a quieter, more cautious lifestyle. But even those who don't actively seek out danger often admire those who do. Our popular culture is full of stories about explorers, adventurers, and risk-takers. Intriguing, hummed the Technarch emissary. Query, how does this diversity of risk tolerance affect your societal structures and decision-making processes? Zara, trying not to flinch as the alien doctor applied some sort of cool, gelatinous substance to her sunburn, considered the question. It's a balancing act, really. Our governments and institutions need to account for both the cautious and the adventurous. It leads to some interesting debates, especially when it comes to things like space exploration or scientific research. But ultimately, I think this diversity makes us stronger as a species. We have those who push the boundaries and those who ensure we do so safely. The Viscosi delegate burbled thoughtfully. I begin to see why the Confederation was so eager to include Earth, despite its classification as a death world. Your species brings a unique perspective to galactic affairs, and unique problems, Zara added with a self-deprecating chuckle. I doubt any other species has caused a diplomatic incident with a sunburn before. This elicited a round of alien laughter, a cacophony of chirps, burbles and electronic tones that reminded Zara just how diverse the Galactic Confederation truly was. And now humanity was a part of this cosmic tapestry, sunburns and all. As the gathering continued, Zara found herself fielding increasingly specific questions about human biology and culture. The initial shock of her sunburn had given way to genuine scientific and diplomatic curiosity. Is it true that humans intentionally consume toxic substances for pleasure? Asked a horrified Photosynthian. Well, if you're referring to alcohol, then yes, Zara admitted. Though toxic is a bit of an overstatement, it's more of a mild poison that, in small quantities, can have relaxing or euphoric effects. This admission sent another ripple of shock through the alien gathering. The Melodian representative trilled in disbelief. You willingly ingest poisons for enjoyment. Elias stepped in. Ever the scientist. It's not as alarming as it sounds. Human bodies have evolved efficient systems for processing many substances that might be harmful in large quantities. In fact, some compounds that are mildly toxic in small doses can have beneficial effects. It's all about moderation and understanding our own biology. The Robotech Collective's avatar whirred with what might have been approval. Efficient adaptation. Query, does this tolerance extend to other environmental factors? Atmospheric variations, gravitational differences, extreme temperatures. Zara nodded, feeling the cool relief of whatever alien medication the doctor had applied to her sunburn. To varying degrees, yes, we can adapt to a wide range of conditions, though some take more time and effort than others. It's part of what makes us well-suited for exploration of diverse environments. As the discussion continued, Zara could see the gathered aliens' perception of humanity shifting. What had started as alarm over her sunburn was evolving into a growing appreciation for human adaptability and resilience. The Zephyrian ambassador drifted closer, their gaseous forms swirling with interest. Captain Quint, I believe I speak for many when I say that this conversation has been most illuminating. Your species' approach to challenge and adaptation is unconventional, certainly, but also undeniably intriguing. I, for one, am eager to see how this proposed human hazardous environment exploration division might reshape our understanding of the galaxy. Zara smiled, careful not to stretch her tender skin too much. Thank you, Ambassador. I have to say, this isn't quite how I imagined this day going when I woke up worried about hiding my embarrassing vacation souvenir. But I'm glad we've had the chance to clear up some misconceptions and open new avenues for cooperation. High Counselor Zixix, who had been quietly observing the gathering, floated forward, their crystalline form pulsing with a warm light. Indeed, Captain Quint, what began as a potential diplomatic faux pas has transformed into a most productive exchange. I believe I speak for the Council when I say that we look forward to further discussions on this exploration initiative. As the gathering began to disperse, aliens drifting off in pairs and groups, still chattering excitedly about human biology and the prospects of the new exploration division, Zara found herself alone with Elias. Her first officer grinned at her. Well, Captain, I'd say that's a mission accomplished. Though I'm not sure turn a sunburn into a galactic exploration initiative was ever in our official diplomatic playbook. Zara laughed, then winced slightly. Ow, note to self, laughing with a sunburn, not recommended. But you're right, talk about making lemonade out of lemons. Lemonade. Elias quirked an eyebrow. Careful, Captain. Start explaining that idiom and you'll launch another 3-hour xenolinguistics discussion. Past Zara said firmly. Right now, all I want is a cool shower, some actual aloe vera, and maybe a strong drink. Not necessarily in that order. As they made their way back to the human quarters, Zara couldn't help but shake her head at the absurdity of it all. One little sunburn, and suddenly humanity was on track to lead a new era of galactic exploration. If this was how the Confederation reacted to a bit of sun damage, she could only imagine what would happen when they discovered extreme sports or competitive eating. But that, she decided, was a diplomatic incident for another day. For now, she had a report to write, a sunburn to soothe, and a galaxy of new possibilities to contemplate. All in all, not a bad day's work for a slightly crispy human diplomat. As Zara and Elias reached their quarters, a thought struck her. You know, Elias, we might want to warn Earth about this new initiative before the Confederation makes it official. I have a feeling our adventure tourism industry is about to get a very interesting galactic upgrade. Elias groaned. Oh stars, you're right. Can you imagine? Come to Earth, where everyday activities are extreme sports for 90% of the galaxy will be overrun with adrenaline junkie aliens trying to experience the human lifestyle. Zara grinned, despite her sunburn. Well, look on the bright side. At least it'll make for some interesting cultural exchange programs. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a date with a cold compress and a lot of moisturizer. As the door to her quarters slid shut behind her, Zara couldn't help but laugh. In all her years of diplomatic training, no one had ever mentioned that a bad case of sunburn could reshape interstellar relations. But then again, that was humanity in a nutshell, always finding new and unexpected ways to leave their mark on the universe. She made a mental note to request a revision of the Diplomatic Corps training manual. Lesson 1: always pack sunscreen. You never know when a little UV exposure might just change the course of galactic history.